My wife told me she was over her exes, but every time I turned around, I found her searching for them again, and I realized I was losing her without even knowing it even after giving my heart and soul and fighting for us. We met in 2022, and like most early relationships, everything felt bright, easy, and full of possibility at first. We clicked quickly. Conversations stretched long into the night. We laughed easily, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself believe I'd found someone I could build a future with. She was warm, funny, spontaneous, and, to me, she felt like home. But as the months unfolded, things started surfacing that I couldn't quite ignore. Things that chipped away at the simple picture I had painted for us. Things that made me pause and quietly wonder, is she as fully here with me as I am with her? The first incident happened on October 29th, 2022. I remember the date clearly because it started as such a normal, comfortable evening. We were curled up on the couch, a movie playing, something cozy and easy, the kind of quiet moment couples settle into when they feel safe with each other. Then her phone buzzed.
Nothing unusual about that.
But what was unusual was the way she moved.
Fast.
Jittery. She glanced at the screen and, without saying a word, got up quickly and stepped out of the room. My eyes followed her, confused. Her voice was hushed in the other room. I couldn't make out what she was saying, but her tone carried an edge of urgency. A few words, a short exchange, and then she came back and dropped onto the couch like nothing had happened. I asked her, carefully, who had called. "Oh, just an old friend," she said casually. He was drunk, being inappropriate. That caught me off guard. I sat up straighter. An old friend? What kind of friend calls you drunk and says inappropriate things when you're sitting here with me, in a serious relationship? I asked as calmly as I could. She sighed, like I was making a big deal out of nothing. An old ex, she admitted. He calls every 6 months or so. It doesn't mean anything. I didn't explode. I didn't accuse. I just swallowed it and told her I needed to sleep on it. But in the morning, it was still sitting heavy on my chest. So I asked again. I explained how uncomfortable it made me. I said it didn't sit right with me that an ex felt he had that kind of access to her to call her randomly drunk and say inappropriate things like that. If she was serious about us, those doors should have been closed a long time ago. It turned into a full day of fighting. She insisted I was overreacting. She insisted it didn't matter. Finally, by the end of the day, she said, "Okay," he texted and apologized. "I'll handle it. I'll block him." I let it go. I told myself relationships mean compromise, and this was her way of compromising. I believed her. And a few weeks later, during Christmas time, I proposed. I got down on one knee, heart in my throat, and she said yes. We were engaged. I wanted to believe we were moving forward. I wanted to believe that the past, hers and mine, would stay behind us. But then came incident 2. It was January 2023. The new year had barely started, and something felt off again. I couldn't put my finger on it right away, but then I noticed her phone. The constant buzz. Messages. Notifications nonstop. I didn't go snooping. I didn't pry behind her back. But eventually, it became too obvious to ignore. So I asked. And she admitted that her ex, a different one this time, ex number 2, had been messaging her. Not 1 or 2 texts. 20 to 25 messages a day. Every day. That's not normal. That's not casual. That's not just an old friend checking in. I brought it up to her. I told her, clearly, firmly, that I wasn't okay with it. It felt disrespectful to our relationship, and it made me uncomfortable. I thought after what happened with ex number 1, this would be a no-brainer. But instead, it turned into a month-long fight. A full month of being told I was controlling, that I was insecure, that it wasn't a big deal, and I was blowing it out of proportion. Finally, after weeks of going in circles, I had to be brutally honest with her. I told her I couldn't do this. That if she wanted to maintain any kind of relationship, even minimal contact with her exes, that was her decision. But I wouldn't be sticking around for it. I couldn't build a marriage on a foundation where her past kept bleeding into our present. I drew a hard line. If your ex calls you, texts you, reaches out, and you respond, that's the end of us. I'm out. She didn't like it. We fought again. But eventually she relented. She told him to disconnect. She told me she blocked him. I tried to trust her. But a week later, something gnawed at me. A gut feeling I couldn't shake. So I checked. And I realized she hadn't blocked him at all. She had simply unfollowed him. She had lied to me, straight to my face. When I confronted her, she pretended she didn't understand the difference between unfollowing and blocking. Like I was somehow the unreasonable one again for caring about that distinction. Another fight. Another exhausting argument. Eventually, finally, she blocked him for real this time. But by then, something deeper had cracked inside of me. It wasn't just about the phone calls or the texts anymore. It was about trust.
It was about respect.
It was about the fact that I kept having to fight for boundaries that should have been obvious to someone who loved me. I didn't want to control her. I didn't want to isolate her. I just wanted a relationship where I didn't have to constantly defend why it wasn't okay for ex-boyfriends to have open, casual, ongoing access to my fiancé. I wanted her to close the door to her past so we could build something real in the present. But instead, I kept feeling like I was standing alone, holding that door shut with both hands, while she kept cracking it open from the other side. And it was starting to wear me down. Incident 3 happened in June 2023, and even now, I can still remember how disorienting that night felt. It was supposed to be one of those quiet, intimate evenings where everything is soft and simple, the kind of moment where two people breathe a little deeper around each other and remember why they're in love. We had opened a bottle of wine. We were sitting together in the bath, warm water and candles flickering, and for a while, things felt okay. I remember thinking, maybe all the turbulence was behind us. Maybe we had turned a corner. Then, almost out of nowhere, she brought up incident number 1. The ex from that phone call back in October. The one who had called her drunk and inappropriate while we were sitting on the couch. At first, I wasn't even sure how the conversation shifted there. I can't tell you what the spark was, just that suddenly, we weren't talking about us anymore. We were talking about him. She said she'd been feeling sad about how she handled things back then. That she thought she'd probably broken his heart with how she cut him off. That he was, in her words, an innocent person and she felt bad for hurting him. I remember sitting there, water cooling around us, trying to process what she was saying. Innocent person? Broken his heart? This was the man who had called her drunk and inappropriate while she was with her fiancé. This was the man who, according to her, had been blocked and shut out cleanly months ago. Why was she sitting here mourning him now? Why was she suddenly softening the story? A quiet alarm started ringing inside me. I pushed my glass of wine aside and asked her plainly, "What exactly did you say to him when you messaged him to block him? Can we look at those messages?" At first, she resisted, shrugged, said it wasn't necessary. But the more I asked, the more evasive she got. And that evasiveness was its own answer. Finally, maybe out of exhaustion or because she knew I wouldn't let it drop, she agreed to show me the final exchange. I took her phone. I opened the messages. What I saw hit me in the chest like a dull, heavy weight. The final message she claimed to have sent was not direct, not clear, and certainly not the clean boundary she had promised me. It said, "My boyfriend was mad because of your call, and we can't continue, bye. Not I don't want contact anymore. Not this is inappropriate, and I'm ending it. Not even please stop contacting me." It wasn't her taking ownership of a boundary. It was her blaming me for the cutoff, almost inviting sympathy from him. There were no replies from him after that, fine. But something in me needed to know more. So I scrolled up. And what I found next made my stomach drop. Message after message from him, long, emotional, romantic. Every week, every month, telling her how much he loved her, how much he wanted to marry her, how he still wanted her, how he missed her. It wasn't occasional, casual check-ins. It was relentless pursuit. And worse, she wasn't shutting it down. She was replying. Engaging, keeping it friendly, sure, but not ending it, not cutting it off, not once saying stop. She was letting it happen. I scrolled up even further. I wanted to understand how deep this rabbit hole went. That's when I saw messages from right around when she and I had first started dating, late 2022. Messages where she was essentially asking his permission to start a relationship with me. She told him she was seeing someone new me. And he was furious. Angry, hurt, lashing out. Jealous that she would dare move on from him. And even in those messages, she was treading carefully, placating him, trying not to upset him too much, managing his feelings, even as she supposedly committed to me. I sat there, staring at the screen, my pulse ringing in my ears. The more I read, the colder I felt. I asked her, quietly because at that point I didn't have the energy to yell, "What exactly am I looking at here? You said you blocked him. You said you cut him off. But for months you've been having an ongoing connection with someone who is openly professing love for you. Someone you knew wanted more. And you didn't shut it down. Why?" That's when she finally told me. She admitted that ex number one wasn't just an ex. He had been a friend with benefits for 3 years before we started dating. 3 years of a messy, complicated, unhealthy relationship she couldn't really explain. I sat back. I put the phone down. And I told her I was done. Engagement over. Relationship over. I couldn't marry someone who, for the entire time she'd been living with me, planning a life with me, had been maintaining a secret, emotional, romantic thread with someone else. Even after we had clear, explicit conversations about what we both agreed counted as cheating. We had both said, letting someone pursue you inappropriately and letting it continue is a form of betrayal. And she did exactly that. We were already seeing a couples counselor to prepare for marriage. In the aftermath of everything I saw that night, we scheduled an urgent session. The counselor, neutral and calm, told her flat out, "You're stuck in your past. You are not emotionally finished with it, and it's bleeding into your current relationship." The counselor didn't sugarcoat it. It was a problem. A big one. We took space for a week. I needed time to breathe. I needed time to figure out whether any part of me still wanted to fight for this. A week later, she came to me, crying, apologizing, saying she understood now, that she had issues she needed to work on, that she didn't want to lose me, and she was ready to do the work and make real changes. I wish I could tell you I held strong. I wish I could tell you I walked away. But I loved her. I still wanted to believe in us. I wanted to believe people could change. So I forgave her. I let her back in. I told myself, maybe this was the rock bottom moment that would finally turn things around. But deep inside, something fragile had already cracked. And I wasn't sure if it could ever fully mend. Incident 4 happened just a couple of months after that long, painful bath conversation, the one where I forgave her and tried, maybe naively, to trust again. By then, things on the surface had settled down. We weren't fighting as much. I had told myself to move forward, not to constantly relive the past or drag old wounds into new days. We were planning a wedding. Rings had been chosen. Venue booked. We were, at least in theory, trying to build a future. It was a regular evening, nothing special, nothing dramatic. We were sitting together on the couch, her phone in hand, scrolling casually through Facebook. She wanted to search for something. I can't even remember what it was now, something trivial, and when she tapped into the search bar, a list of her recent searches dropped down. Right there, staring me in the face, was the name of another ex number 3. I didn't say anything right away. I just sat still, trying to give myself a beat before reacting. But inside, my stomach turned in that all-too-familiar way, the same sensation I'd felt during those past incidents. I asked her calmly, "Why are you searching for him?" At first, her answer was flat and dismissive. "I was just curious. I just wanted to see what he's up to. No big deal. Just curiosity." But to me, after everything we'd been through, after every line we had drawn, after every tearful apology and counseling session and broken boundary, it was a big deal. I told her plainly, "I don't like this. I don't like this pattern of you revisiting exes. To me, stalking their profiles, even out of curiosity, is not appropriate, especially weeks before we're getting married." That triggered another argument. Days of tension. The same cycle I was starting to know too well. Her saying I was controlling, me explaining that trust is built on mutual respect, her saying it meant nothing, me asking why then it keeps happening. After days of pushing and pulling, we finally agreed. No more. No more exes. No more looking them up, no more curiosity clicks, no more blurred lines. We had a wedding ahead of us, and if we wanted a clean slate, we needed to fully step out of old chapters. We made the agreement together. I took a deep breath and, again, told myself, okay, maybe now we're really through this. We got married. Right after the wedding, she got pregnant. Our child, a little girl, came into the world, and everything about our lives changed in ways I could have never anticipated. Incident 5. Life with a baby is beautiful, yes, but it's also heavy. It stretches you thin in ways you don't expect, and no matter how ready you think you are, you're not. We moved to a new state not long after the birth. New jobs. New routines. New stresses. And under all that pressure, all the cracks we'd papered over in our relationship started showing again, sharper, deeper this time. We fought constantly. Over parenting choices, over sleep deprivation, over housework, over jobs, over family. We were like two exhausted boxers in the same ring, swinging wildly, because neither of us had any reserves left to be gentle. She brought up divorce in fights, once, then twice, then a third time. And then eventually I did too. It felt like we were both standing on opposite cliffs, shouting fine. Maybe we should just end this because neither of us knew how else to be heard. We agreed, for the sake of our child and whatever might still be left between us, to see a couples therapist again. It didn't help much. Maybe because we were too tired. Maybe because too much damage had already been done. Maybe because, deep down, neither of us really trusted the other anymore. Eventually, we had one of those long, quiet conversations where you stop yelling and just get painfully honest.
We said,
we can either fix this, really fix this, or we separate. We can't stay in this halfway, miserable limbo. We agreed to push one more time. We promised we would fake it if we had to, act as lovingly as we could, even if it felt forced, in the hopes that real affection would follow. We decided to have daily check-ins, just small talks every night to gently peel back the layers and see where we were. For 4 days, it went okay. Better than okay, actually. There was a softening between us I hadn't seen in months. Little moments of kindness. A shared smile here. A hand on my arm there. I let myself feel hope again. Hope that maybe, after everything, we could find our way back. Day 5 is when it unraveled. I noticed her phone buzz when she wasn't around. A message preview from one of her friends popped up. The word divorce was in it. My chest tightened. Against every instinct that told me don't go there again, don't check, don't spiral, I opened her phone. I hadn't done that once since we got married. I had promised myself we were past that kind of secrecy and snooping. But seeing that word in the middle of us supposedly trying again, I couldn't ignore it. I opened the thread. The friend was helping her find a divorce lawyer. Probably before we'd agreed to give it one last try, but even so, it felt like betrayal. The friend had also told her to delete their conversation to be safe. My heart sank. On a hunch, I checked her deleted messages. I don't know why I did. Maybe part of me already knew what I'd find. I recovered a few threads that had been deleted 20 days earlier. One caught my eye right away. A message to another friend. It read, "Can you do me a favor? What do you need? Go stalk someone's IG for me. The name is X number 2. Wanna know what he's doing? KK, give me 2 minutes." Screenshot of X number 2's Instagram profile. Haha, he's still married. I like this part of you, winky face. Okay, thank you. I sat there, holding her phone, staring at the screen with a hollowness I can't describe. X number 2 again. The same man from January 2023. The one she had promised to block after a month-long fight. And here she was less than 3 weeks ago, still checking in on him. Still curious. Still letting him take up space in her mind. Even with a baby, even with a marriage on shaky legs, even after all the promises. I felt like something broke cleanly inside me that night. Not the messy cracks of before, something more final. A clean snap. Like a rope that's been fraying for years, finally giving way under the weight. I put her phone down. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. And for the first time since I had met her in 2022, I felt a quiet, calm certainty inside me. I don't think I can do this anymore. When I saw those messages, when I pieced together what she'd been doing behind the scenes, even as we were making what was supposed to be our final, desperate attempt to save this marriage, something shifted in me that I can't unfeel. It wasn't just the betrayal itself. It was the weight of realizing how familiar it all felt. It brought everything crashing back. I remembered incident 1. The first late-night call from an ex that she brushed off like it was meaningless, but that left me awake and uneasy, wondering if I'd just glimpsed the tip of something deeper. I remembered incident 2. Those weeks of back-and-forth messages with ex number 2, the same man who cropped up again now, almost like he was a symbol of how nothing ever really closed in her world. How I had drawn a line, and she had stepped over it anyway. I remembered incident 3. That bath, the vulnerable conversation, and how I had forgiven her after learning about the years-long hidden history with ex number 1. I remembered how hard I worked to choose forgiveness because I believed people could grow. I remembered incident 4. The casual scroll through Facebook where I found ex number 3's name, and how even then, when we were supposed to be planning a future, her eyes and mind kept drifting back into the past. And now, here we were. Incident 5. The final thread. Her asking friends to stalk ex number 2 again, less than a month ago. While we were holding hands and promising to rebuild, she was secretly checking in on old ghosts and whispering about divorce. That night, it all hit me harder than I expected. Harder, even than the first betrayals had. Because I realized with a kind of painful clarity that it was never going to stop. This wasn't forgetfulness. This wasn't just carelessness. This was a pattern so woven into her that even marriage and motherhood hadn't loosened its hold. And in that moment, I knew what I hadn't wanted to admit before. It's too much for me. I had spent so long trying to give the benefit of the doubt, trying to frame things generously, telling myself that love meant patience, meant forgiveness, meant effort. And for a long time, I had energy for all of that. I wanted to be the person who didn't walk away too soon. But sitting on the edge of that bed, staring at her phone, I felt it leave me. That last reserve. That last sliver of hope. I met with my therapist. I laid it all out, not just the facts, but the feelings that stacked behind them. The exhaustion. The frustration. The hollow ache of realizing I had been pulling dead weight for longer than I wanted to see. And I made my decision. I told my therapist, I'm done. Not because I hate her. Not because I want revenge. But because I have no hope or energy left to give. I cannot do another cycle of discovery, apology, argument, forgiveness. I cannot have another sleepless night wondering who she's thinking about when I'm next to her. I cannot keep swallowing my instincts just to keep a fragile peace. So I talked to her. I told her calmly, clearly, that I was ending the marriage. That I couldn't live like this anymore. That it wasn't just about this one thing, it was about all the things stacked on top of each other, crushing whatever foundation we thought we still had.
She cried.
She apologized. She said again, it wasn't a big deal. And that, more than anything, told me I was making the right choice. Because after all this time, after all those promises, after all the counseling and conversations and tears and reconciliations, she still didn't understand why it mattered. She still didn't grasp how deep the cuts went. It was the same pattern. The same excuses. The same dismissal. And I just don't have it in me to go one more round. I'm walking away because, for the first time in a long time, I'm choosing myself. Not the version of me who tolerates too much. Not the version of me who explains my boundaries over and over. Not the version of me who lives in limbo, hoping her curiosity fades faster than it usually does. I'm choosing peace. I'm choosing clarity. I'm choosing to believe that somewhere on the other side of this pain, there's a life where I don't feel this tired all the time. So no, I can't forgive her this time. Because forgiveness, to me, has always meant let's try again. And I don't want to try again. I want to be free. And finally, I'm ready to be.